Hello, my friends. Welcome back. I'm coming to you from just outside of Devil's Tower National Monument at a private campground that's just outside of the park. And I wanted to answer a question today, well, indirectly answer a question about one of our recent videos I recorded in Yellowstone National Park at Fishing Bridge Campground. And the question was simply something like, are all campgrounds like that? This was a person that was kind of in their planning phase, dreaming about camping and RVing, and they saw Fishing Bridge RV Park, which is inside Yellowstone National Park, in the background of my video, and saw all the RVs crammed in there very tightly, and wanted to know if that was typical because that wasn't the idea they had when they started thinking about getting into camping. And my answer to that really is that's not typical for a national park campground, but it is typical for an RV park with full hookups. And Fishing Bridge is called Fishing Bridge RV Park. It's operated by a concessionaire, but it is in Yellowstone National Park. And there are several reasons why everybody's crammed in there. One is I think the idea of a place like that in a special place like Yellowstone is just to allow a space to cram as many big rig RVs in as possible so they can go explore the park. It's not going to be the perfect camping experience, but it's going to be a decent option for them to explore this very, very big park where it's hard to stay outside of the park and drive in except for a couple places. So one of the reasons is location, and that's going to be an issue here as well, right outside of a national monument. Another issue is certainly corporate greed. I don't want to rule that out. The idea of cramming as many sites in as possible so that you can get as many people in as possible is certainly a reason why campgrounds and RV parks can be tight like this. Another reason is the full hookups. It costs a lot of money to run electricity and sewer and water, and the closer the sites are together, the shorter those runs are going to be, especially sewer. Sewer can be difficult because it has to grade down to a septic tank. But there's another issue that causes campgrounds to be really tight like that, and it's one that doesn't get talked about a lot. It's pull-through sites. A lot of us love pull-through sites, especially if we got a big rig. You don't have to back in. Obviously, that makes the whole experience a little bit easier. If you're only staying a night or two, you don't even have to unhook. Whether you're pulling a trailer or you've got a motorhome pulling a car behind you, if you're just staying overnight, it's really easy to come in, dump your tanks, get some power, do some laundry, and get out the next day. Even for us heavy boondockers, that's a nice thing to have every now and then when we got to throw the trash out, we got to fill the water, all the things. But one of the biggest issues with pull-through sites is how much square footage they take up. And because of that, they often have to be very, very close to each other. They tend to be a lot longer and skinnier than your typical back-in site with the same amount of square footage, or usually significantly more square footage. And that's why not only are pull-through sites some of the most annoying sites because you're so close to your neighbor, but also they tend to be some of the most expensive sites. In a campground like this, where a pull-through site ranges between 80 and 90 bucks a night, a back-in site is going to be between 60 and 70 bucks a night. And you actually get a better site and a little bit more room with a back-in site. More in a moment, but first, this video is sponsored by the folks over at RVmattress.com by Brooklyn Bedding, where you can get a real mattress for your RV made by a real mattress company. We've been so happy with our mattresses from RVmattress.com. I know I say it in a lot of videos, but we've had them in 3 RVs. We have them in our home. The kids' bunk mattresses at home, our king bedroom mattress, all of it is all mattresses from Brooklyn Bedding, because they're not just like RV mattresses. You're not paying extra because it's an RV product, like when you pay extra for wedding decorations because they say wedding on them. Brooklyn Bedding is a huge mattress company that makes lots of mattresses. They just have this special portal called RVmattress.com where they allow you to find mattresses of all the different odd shapes and sizes that RV manufacturers put in some of these rigs. Our rig has what some manufacturers call a camper king, which is the same thing as an Olympic queen, but they're not the most common size. A lot of RVs use a shorter mattress to allow you to walk around it. Some need different thicknesses because you might have a slide that closes over the top of the mattress. So it's really important to get the right size mattress for your RV. And you spend a lot of money on this thing to travel around in, so you have a bed with you wherever you go. You should have a good bed to sleep in. Brooklyn Bedding's mattresses are toxin-free, made in their factory in Arizona, shipped to you wherever you are, and they have a 120-night sleep trial to make sure you're happy. But the best part is, for being an RV Miles viewer, you get 30% off if you head over to rvmattress.com/RVMiles and use the code RVMiles at checkout. That's rvmattress.com/RVMiles for 30% off with the code RV Miles at checkout. So I wanted to find a way to illustrate this. So what I did was I drew up a small campground. This is kind of similar to what Fishing Bridge is like. Fishing Bridge has pull-through sites in the middle, and then it's ringed around the edges with back-end sites. So this is certainly not the type of campground I love, not the type of RV park I love, but it's something that's very common out there. You're going to see layouts like this often in places that are very busy, that cater to a lot of RVers. Places like Florida, where there's not a ton of room, but there are a lot of RVers and a lot of people that want to be down there in the winter. So this is a 3-acre plot of land, and it's got 34 back-end sites on it and 19 pull-throughs for a total of 53 sites. It may look pretty dense for an RV park, and usually they'll recommend that you want to have about 10 sites per acre. So 30 sites would be the desirable amount of sites to have on 3 acres of land, and this is almost twice as much as that. But this is pretty typical, and the way I drew these sites out, they're significantly bigger than a lot of sites that I've stayed at. So for instance, the 34 back-end sites are 33 foot by 60. Each of them has a 45-foot driveway to fit the biggest rigs, and then it's got a 12-foot parking pad next to the site where you could put your truck or your towed vehicle. Each of these sites is about 1,980 square feet and takes about 700 feet of concrete or asphalt or gravel, whatever the parking surface is going to be. Now contrast that with these pull-through sites. Each of these has a 12-foot wide by 84-foot long parking pad. And that's generous. Ideally, you want at least 75 feet. That's going to fit the biggest motorhomes with a towed vehicle behind them. That's going to fit the longest fifth wheels with the truck, and room for the truck to park in front of it unhitched. So just because of the way this was laid out, I was able to get a few extra feet. And then you've got about a 12-foot wide strip of grass. These sites, even though they're very long, are going to feel really small. Your neighbor's going to feel really close to you, just like the sites that we're in right here, right now. They're about the same width as these. So you've traded the convenience of the length of the site for the enjoyment of the width of the site, for the ability to spread out at your picnic table, not have your picnic table be next to somebody's sewer, to not be able to hear your neighbors' conversations or have them hear your conversations all the time. Here in this beautiful spot by Devil's Tower, the fact that we're all so close to each other blocks our view. There's all of those annoyances, but we've paid more money for it. Why? Well, it's a lot more square footage. So in our little mock campground, there are 19 pull-through sites. They're 24 by 84. They're 2,016 square feet. And these ones have 1,000 square foot of concrete or asphalt or gravel, whatever you use. If it was a little bit shorter site, a more reasonable one, you'd still have 900 square feet, which is 200 square foot more pavement than you'd need for a back-end site. Now, in the end, the square footage of these sites is roughly the same between the back-end sites and the pull-throughs. The back-end sites are a little bit less, only 36 square feet less, but these are generous back-end sites. That square footage is including the room behind them as well. At 33 foot wide, that's wide enough for our 14-foot fifth wheel, and then we have another 20 foot or so of width in the site for us to enjoy. But the square footage doesn't tell the whole story, because with a layout like this, if I pulled out all of these pull-throughs, I could put 9 more total sites in the campground if I made them all back-ends. And that's not accounting for the fact that back-end sites only need a 1-lane road. If we've got a setup like this, we need a 2-lane main road in the campground for those pull-through RVs to get out. Now, there are a lot of different ways you can configure a campground like this, but you can see that the pull-through sites being the same size or even a little bit bigger just feel terribly small. And that's why we will avoid pull-through sites whenever possible. I only book pull-through sites when I really want one for a quick overnight or when I have to get one, like in this campground, which for some reason does not allow bigger rigs to use their shorter sites. They have sites here that I would be happy to park in, that I absolutely could fit in, that they have a 20-foot limit on. I don't get it. But anytime I talk to people about what they really want in a campground, a lot of them will say, nice level pull-through sites. And it's important to know what you're losing when you demand that campgrounds have a lot of pull-through sites. When you book a lot of pull-through sites, the campgrounds are only responding to what we want, because they could fit more sites in if they didn't put those big pull-through sites in. But they know that a lot of us want pull-through sites, and that's okay. They have their place, and if you're fine with being that close to your neighbor, okay then. But a lot of what we want as campers drives what the campground industry does. There are more and more pull-through sites at campgrounds. Lots of campgrounds doing exclusively pull-through sites, or all pull-through sites and then just fitting in back ends where there's openings. And that's a recipe for a campground that I just don't love, where everybody is just really, really close to one another. And frankly, it costs more, and I don't love that either. So I'd love to know what you think. Do you only park in pull-throughs? Do you avoid places like this altogether and only go to places like state parks and national park campgrounds that have a decent amount of room? Or maybe you only boondock or whatever it might be. I would love to find a way. My dream is sort of to be the Arnold Palmer of campground design. I'm not an expert in campground design by any means. Believe me, I don't know anything about it. But I just think one day that would be a cool job to have. I don't want to run campgrounds necessarily, but I would love to design them. I would love to be part of that process because I think there is a lot that the campground industry can learn from us and can improve. And I know it's hard, and I know there's a lot of things that we don't think about, and this is one of them, which is why I wanted to bring it up. But I would love to find a way where campgrounds don't have to sort of segregate all the different types of sites into different areas. They don't have to have the rows of cabins. They could have a loop of nice back-end sites and the occasional pull through that goes between them, and have the cabins and glamping tents in between them. So when we have a family member come camp with us, they can stay in the site next to us. Different people that like different types of camping can be near each other and have the campground follow sort of more of a naturalistic feel. I think that would be a really cool way to make a campground that's a private park that wants to make money to feel a bit more like a state park, like that sort of state park camping that we love. Yeah, sites are going to have to be close together, but let's improve the landscaping to help separate them. Let's find unique ways to make people feel like they're sort of in their own little space. Just something I would love to work on someday. Anyway, thanks so much for being here, everybody. If you got something out of this video, hit the like button, and we'd love it if you'd hit the subscribe button as well. And we'd love it if you'd consider joining us at our homecoming rally, which is a celebration of sort of the end of the summer camping season that we hold every year in Amana, Iowa. It's the last week of September. We have a whole lot of fun. Amana is a great town full of wineries, breweries, and antiquing, and we have a small communal atmosphere where we have seminars and games and big prize giveaways and a lot of fun. So we hope we'll see you there. I'll put a link in the description for this episode. Thanks so much for being here, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.